Welcome back to another episode of the Remade Life podcast. In this episode, I'm talking all about why complicated solutions to health are actually keeping you sick. And I'll admit, I like to complicate things, so I'm definitely talking to myself here. So for all of you overachievers out there, you are my people and I am talking to you. I'm Coach Danny. Let's talk about it. Are you ready to rewrite your story and embrace a new perspective on healing autoimmune disease? Hey, I'm Daniela Spear, and I'm fascinated by exploring the human body, movement, and how emotions help to create our life's journey. After a transforming experience helped me to heal over 15 years of autoimmune symptoms, I decided to share what it looks like to have a second chance at a more compassionate relationship with my body. In this podcast, I will guide you in building lasting wellness by tapping into your body's innate wisdom, understanding the emotional roots of autoimmune disease, and how to use strength training not just for working out, but as a tool to heal from within. So get ready to revive your most inner joys, rebuild your health, and reclaim your life. This is the Remade Life podcast. Hello, friends. What a week. First of all, I decided to do a nutrition experiment last week. I wanted to get more in depth with this experience of food combining, which is all focused on pairing foods that digest the best together in order for your digestive system to use less energy and therefore giving you back some more energy into your energy bank. And I had intentionally decided to do it during my luteal phase of my menstrual cycle. So week 4 of my menstrual cycle, right before my period, because every month, right before I get my period, my body feels like absolute chaos. Anyone else know what I'm talking about? I feel so tired, just so low energy, brain fog, I'm achy all over, and I just get like heightened anxiety. So I wanted to see if this food pairing approach would help. I just wanted to see like, hey, would it feel any different? We all know that the gut and the brain are very connected, and I figured, hey, if I could support my gut in some kind of way, would that impact just the overall feeling of how I feel every month right before my period? And it was going so well. But then about midweek, I got a fever and I had chills for about 2 days and like a low grade fever. And I shared about this in last week's episode. So if you're thinking like another fever, it's actually the same fever, the one that I'm referring to, but I'm just mentioning it again because it like interrupted my food experiment that I'm sharing about now. And then we also lost power last week. On the 2 days that I had fever, when I had chills, then we lost power. It was like the 2 coldest days of the year so far. And it was just like quite the roller coaster of a week. And I do want to mention that despite having a fever, I have to say, I think the food pairing, the food combining did help. I didn't end up following through with it for the 5-day period that I had intended to do because with the fever and the power outages, I just felt like I no longer had the headspace to like focus on that. But this is a good lesson and a reminder that things will never go 100% right. And the question is, will you still follow through on your commitment? And I was not a great example of that last week because I did not follow through on my commitment. What can I say? Sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, you know? But also, a second lesson here is that things don't have to be perfect because even though I didn't follow through with the rest of the week, I did 3 out of the 5 days, and I have to say it was the best I have felt going into my period in a long time. So I plan to redo it next month and see what results I get, because even though I didn't do all 5 days, I still feel like it had an impact. So even if you can't complete something perfectly, something is better than nothing, which is actually a great lead into today's topic of conversation: how complicated solutions are actually keeping you sick. So, all my overachievers and overthinkers, I'm talking to you today. Mostly to myself. I have a tendency to overcomplicate things. However, in my decade plus of years of experience as a health coach and movement professional, it is always the simple things that work the best. And I gotta tell you, it is so annoying. So annoying, because as humans, we're just wired to solve problems, to overcome obstacles, and seek that feeling of satisfaction when we have accomplished something that initially seemed impossible. So simple solutions can feel really annoying, especially if you have a tendency to complicate things, or look for the complicated solution, and realizing or accepting, acknowledging, whatever, that the simple things work best can feel frustrating. I don't know. Maybe it's because of our society's messages about being fighters and warriors, overcomers, and how much praise we receive for overcoming hard things, right? Like, we love to tell other people, you are so strong. And not that that's a bad compliment, but I think we just place a lot of emphasis on hardship. So it's no surprise that we subconsciously seek to make things difficult, because as the saying goes, the greater the risk, the greater the reward. We want our solutions to be risky, to require us to think and navigate hard situations. We want our approaches to problems to be 50 steps long, and we are all looking for that secret solution that no one else has found, that golden nugget, that treasure of a solution that will absolutely fix all the issues we have, right? You know who you are. We love to complicate things. And the great thing about listening to podcasts is that you don't have to tell anyone about your secret life as a complicator, right? You can just quietly admit it to yourself. But just know that you're not alone here. I mean, there is a reason I am talking about this, because as a coach, I have come across so many people and clients that want things to be hard. Not intentionally, but just subconsciously. Like I said, we are wired to make things hard. So if it's not a complicated solution, then it probably feels like it won't work, you know? But I'm here to help you shift that perspective, because that is what I do. Complicated solutions, I have to tell you, rarely work. Why? Because you don't stick to them. And also because complicated solutions often require too many obstacles, and honestly, that can be so overwhelming to your nervous system. And it probably seems highly inefficient to your brain, and before you even have a chance to implement your complicated solution, your brain has already decided, meh, I don't really want to do that. That doesn't seem fun. Let's take my wake-up routine, for example. I call it a wake-up routine instead of a morning routine, just because I feel like a morning routine can feel like a lot of pressure to do it like a certain time in the morning, but it's just like your wake-up routine for whenever you wake up. So first thing I do is wake up. I go to the bathroom, I wash my hands, I brush my teeth, and I recently added in tongue scraping. It's simple to do because it's sort of just part of like brushing my teeth now. And a couple times a week, I'll do my head and neck lymphatic routine, and then I'll make my bed and go out and drink my morning water. Special shout out to my hubs, Matt, because he helps make it easy for me. So he makes my morning water before he leaves for work. He leaves for work really early in the morning. So then it's just there when I get up. So it makes it easy. And that's pretty much it most of the time. it's already a lot of things, right? And I've been doing this wake up routine for a long time, and I didn't just like put all these things together and then call it my wake up routine. It sort of has built on itself over the years through the process of habit stacking, where you pair a new habit with an old habit that is already in place. And that old habit serves as a reminder to do the new habit. So you kind of like stack the new habit with the old habit, and then it helps to create new synapses in the brain and creates that routine for you. So in this case, tongue scraping is the newest addition. So that's why I paired it with brushing my teeth. Makes it easy. But my routine hasn't always looked like this, and it doesn't always look like this. There are times where I get this sudden gust of quote unquote healthy wind, and I'm doing air quotes because this is not actually a very healthy thing. It's when I suddenly get all this motivation and I feel like I need to add 700 more things to my wake up routine. Like I also need to meditate, and then I need to journal while drinking tea, and then I have to do a stretch routine, and then I got to get my workout in, and then I got to take the dog for a walk and make breakfast and get ready all before 9 a.m. I mean, like I'm trying to have a whole day before the sun rises, And how many times have I successfully completed all these things before starting my workday or needing to leave for school? None. Absolutely 0 times. It's too many things to do. It's too complicated. And based on the laws of time, like it's practically impossible. I literally set myself up for failure every time. And yet, for some reason, I keep going back to the idea that my wake up routine needs to be this long-winded routine with all of the health hacks in order for my day to be set up for success. Like, when will I learn? I don't know. I mean, maybe now that I'm talking about it with the world, I'll not go back to it, but I'm human and I am an ambitious person, so I will probably find myself there again. And I'll just come back and listen to this podcast. So maybe it's not your morning routine. Maybe it's your workouts. Like, are you trying to do too much? Or are you on the other side of it? Are you avoiding exercise altogether because you don't have exactly an hour to dedicate to your workout? Then it just doesn't count. So it's probably a waste of time, right? Like you avoid doing an hour because you don't want to opt for doing like a 15 or 20 minute workout. Right? You want it to be complicated. Or maybe it's your diet. You're searching for that perfect, exact plan that will fix all of your gut issues. And maybe you're someone that is obsessed with like food sensitivity testing or like food elimination, and you're avoiding foods because they cause you gut inflammation. Well, I've got some news for you. It's probably not the food. It is likely the stress of trying to find perfection, and that is causing your gut inflammation. Or maybe you spend a lot of time stressing about counting calories or counting macros, and you have to hit your protein goal for the day. Otherwise, your body will entirely unravel. And not literally, but you know what I mean. You spend more time obsessing about food than actually eating and enjoying it. And all that obsessing with counting and tracking, it's a huge mental load, and it's stress to the nervous system. I mean, of course, there's a time and a place for tracking. Like, I think it can be a useful tool to assess where changes need to be made. But when you start getting into the territory of not enjoying your life because you have to track and count, and you're avoiding foods because they don't fit your macros or you're sensitive to it, like that's when you're complicating it. When the thing you're doing starts to suck the joy out of your life, it's no longer healthy and probably setting you up for chronic disease. What about your approach to autoimmune symptoms? This is a good one. This is where I see a lot of people get stuck early on in their journey. They get so fixated on finding that one thing that is causing their symptoms, and the suggestion that it's stress related probably makes you upset, right? Because no, it can't be stress. It's definitely something else, something quote unquote real is happening in your body. And so you start chasing. You chase doctor after doctor, and maybe you go to multiple doctors searching for that one that is going to pinpoint exactly what it is that's causing your autoimmune symptoms, because you're so sure that if you can find that one thing, then you can fix it all, right? We've all been there. I heard a health coach say this once, and it has really stuck with me. The searching is part of the disease. I'll say it again. The searching is part of the disease. Let that sink in for a moment. The searching, the need to look elsewhere, most often outside of yourself, because if we can dissociate from ourselves and focus on finding the quote unquote right answer to our autoimmune symptoms, then we don't have to look within, which is where the answer already is, right? We are complicating it by looking elsewhere. And all that searching just creates more disconnection, more dissociation, more separation from ourselves. It keeps us from resting. It keeps us from experiencing ease. We literally experience and create disease. Look, I'm not saying don't ever go to the doctor. It is absolutely a valuable resource, but what I'm saying is be mindful in your approach. If you go to the doctor and your labs come back normal, trust that. Trust that your body isn't lying to you, and reflect on where or how you may be contributing to those symptoms. Is it because you have a really busy lifestyle or a very overactive mind? Is it the need to do and be everything to everyone? Is it poor eating habits? Have you taken an honest assessment of your sleep and coffee relationship? Start to pay attention to the things right in front of you before you go searching for someone else to tell you the answer. And be mindful if you are going to multiple doctors at one time, because chances are you're going to get conflicting information and conflicting solutions. And guess what? The medical system is built on telling you what's wrong with you. So if you go to multiple doctors, they're going to tell you that there are multiple things wrong with you, and it's just going to send you and your mind into more of a spiral. You're complicating it. You know if you are. But here's the thing about complicating things. It's not just a matter of making things harder or adding more to your plate. Complicating things is keeping your nervous system on high alert, which is the key issue. Because a nervous system on high alert, that is what is keeping you from healing. The body only heals in safety. The body only heals in parasympathetic activity. So when you're constantly navigating through problems, searching for solutions, trying to find that one thing, you stay in sympathetic mode. It's that fight or flight. And the body cannot heal in sympathetic. The body can only heal in parasympathetic. Your body has to feel safe in order for you to heal. And if it doesn't, it will keep creating symptoms, because that is the body's attempt at healing. Those symptoms are your body's attempt at healing. It's trying to balance this, clear that, adjust for this and that, and it shows up as symptoms. Your body is actually excellent, very good at compensating, but when it reaches a point that it can no longer compensate because it's been compensating for so long, that's when symptoms are expressed. And the nervous system is the one that takes on that entire load. It spends all of its time in sympathetic, just, trying to solve problems because we're complicating things, rather than in parasympathetic, in a place of rest, of ease, of being able to just take a breath. My coaching philosophy is that if given the right environment, the body will heal itself. And I know that especially in the autoimmune space, we're told that the body is complicated, but the reality is it's actually quite simple. When you provide your body its basic needs, the body will heal. I mean, maintaining those basic needs can be complicated, but the body itself can be quite simple to understand. And I don't mean to undervalue the complexity of the body. There's so much happening without our understanding. But what I mean is that when given its basic needs, the body's going to do what it's supposed to do. It's pretty resilient. This reminds me of those Instagram reels where someone is talking to a friend and they're like, I've just been feeling so tired, but I can't figure out why. And their friend's just asking them a bunch of questions. Did you exercise? Well, no. Have you been outside to get some sunshine? No. Have you made time to rest? No. Have you made time for fun? No. Have you had enough water? Probably not. Have you been eating well? Definitely not. Have you been sleeping? No. Have you limited your scrolling time on social media? No. Yeah, no idea why you could be feeling so fatigued. The body's a total mystery. And I'm joking. I say all this lightly because I know that experiencing autoimmune symptoms is much bigger than just going outside and doing exercise, right? When you experience autoimmunity, it's because your body has been in this place of overload for such a long time. And it does take time to reset the body and allow for your nervous system to feel at ease and spend enough time in parasympathetic activity in order for it to start its healing process. So when the nervous system feels overloaded, that tension creates inflammation. That inflammation creates pain and symptoms and fatigue and everything else you're experiencing. But when given the right environment, when given time and space to be in parasympathetic, when it feels safe to be in parasympathetic, that is when the body can heal itself. The other day, someone said something to me along the lines of it's amazing you've been able to heal your body. It's like magic. And I said, well, it's definitely not magic. It's just consistency in creating the right environment for your body to experience ease and heal itself. And I mean, I've shared this a lot on this podcast, but after 15 years, I was finally able to get off of medication. But my body started healing a long time before that. But my body isn't any more special than your body or anyone else's bodies. It's just the intentional consistency of creating the right environment for my body to heal itself. And it's not like I've magically have stopped experiencing symptoms. When I don't meet those basic needs, those autoimmune symptoms start to come back, and they are kind of like the bumper guards and when you go bowling, right? You put up the guards to help keep the ball in the lane. And to me, that is what autoimmune symptoms have become. They are those bumper guards to remind me to, hey, stay in my lane and take care of the things that I need to take care of for my body. So if you find that you're an overachiever and you want to do all the things all at once, because if you do them all, then you'll heal, pause for a moment and ask yourself, how can I make this simple? How can I simplify this? What can I eliminate? And can I practice trust that my body will respond and heal? I did an episode on why self-trust is key to healing autoimmune disease, and I will link that in the show notes. But in that episode, I talk about how people will ask the question am I ready to heal? Or how do I know if I'm ready to heal? But a better question is, do you trust yourself to follow through on what you need to do to heal? And I think the question, am I ready to heal, is kind of a way of complicating things, because you're asking things from a perspective of, do I have everything in order? Do I have all the tools I need? And what's the definitive plan that'll make it all work together, right? It's complicating things. Whereas when you ask, do I trust myself? You're actually coming from a place of acknowledging that things are not going to be perfect. Life is going to happen regardless of whether you're making changes or not. And do you trust yourself to keep your bigger mission of allowing the body to heal? Like, do you trust yourself to continue to create the consistency in the space and time to allow the body to heal? It's a great episode, so make sure you go back and listen to it if you haven't already, or if you have, it's worth a re-listen. So once you've simplified things down, like once you've asked yourself, like, how can I make this more simple? What can I eliminate? Once you've simplified and you have mastered that simple thing, now your nervous system doesn't see it as something new and something that it needs to be on high alert about. Because, like when you learn something new, you're like more like mindful of things versus like tying your shoe, right? Like that is an old habit and you don't even think about it. Whereas like when you were first learning it, you were like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like how many like bunny ears do I need to make, right? Whereas now it's just like so fast, right? So once you have mastered that simple thing and your brain is no longer like on high alert about it, then you can go in and add a new thing. So remember my wake up routine? None of that was added all at once. It has been added little by little of incorporating new things. And sometimes I do change it up when I have the headspace for it. But when I'm like overwhelmed or I just have like a lot on my plate, I just keep the basics, right? I get up, go to the bathroom, wash my hands, brush my teeth, tongue scraping. I make my bed, boom, morning water, I'm done, right? So, how can you make it simple? What can you eliminate? What have you mastered? What has now become a really easy neural pathway for your brain? And then once you have mastered something, like then re-implement something that you either took out previously or introduce something new if you want to. And I always say that if you can see yourself doing something for the rest of your life, then it's just the right amount of simple. But if it's so overwhelming that you're like counting down the days until you no longer have to do it, that ain't it, my friend. That ain't it. That is actually what is keeping you from actually getting the results you want. Change in the human body is not fast. It is a slow change over a long time. So make it simple enough that you can do it for a long time. Okay? But it all starts with acknowledging where you are making things more complicated than they need to be. Like planning out this episode, for example, I was definitely trying to complicate it. I felt like I needed to have a lot more like scientific words and explanations for how the nervous system responds to the added stress of when we complicate things, but we have the evidence we need. Like when we complicate things, we don't follow through on our plan, or we just end up feeling really terrible about ourselves and we create more distrust with ourselves and our bodies. Like, what more evidence do we need? Right? Like I was trying to complicate it by trying to find more like explanations, but like there is no other explanations needed other than like, when you are making things complicated, and that when things are complicated or they feel complicated, you don't want to do them. You just don't. But when we make things simple, like we're more likely to follow through, and we keep doing it long enough for it to have an effect, like long enough for the nervous system to reset and feel safe to heal. So if you find that you are consistently in spirals of autoimmune flare-ups or chronic symptom flare-ups, consider where or how you might be complicating your healing process. And that might even be just like getting in the way of healing, right? And I want you to know that you are not alone if you are complicating your healing process. And you're also not alone in making it simpler. Like we're all in this process together. And so I hope that this episode has resonated with some of you. I know I often need to check in with myself of how am I complicating things, because I think I will get a better result if I make it more complicated, but that is not true. More is not always better. Better is better. And when it comes to healing, Simple is better. Give your body simplicity. That is all it asks for. It's those basic needs: move, hydrate, nourish, sleep, do something fun, right? That's not an exhaustive list, but it's the simple things. It is the simple things that your body really appreciates. So, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Remade Life podcast. And until next time, my friends, be well.